Speed Talk on 1360 here on KRWC. Jason and Dean each and every Saturday morning from 10 till 11. And now we're going to bring in a flat track motorcycle racer who's local from Minnesota here. His name is Jake Mataya. Hey, Jake.
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. I've got a chance to meet you a few weeks back down in Delano, and I've been following your career a little bit. Man, it's exciting. I really respect what you guys do, just ripping it up on those flat track dirt tracks. It's just crazy, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I've been doing it pretty much my whole life, and it's progressed to where I can travel the whole country and race all the races and get paid for it.
Well, let's talk about this year. You were down at Bike Week down in Florida and ripping it up down there. I bet you that was crazy.
Yeah, Daytona is always a fun race. Tons of fans. It's a lot of guys, a lot of pros show up for it, so it's always a tough race. And around 100 experts that show up, and they take the top 18 to the main event. So it's always one of the toughest races to make every year.
Is it kind of the Super Bowl of flat track motorcycle racing, kind of like Daytona is for NASCAR?
I'd say Daytona is one of the hardest races to make, but I'd say the Super Bowl for us is probably Springfield, and that's actually the next race on the schedule, and that's Memorial Day weekend in May.
Why is that one so big?
It's the oldest race on the series. They've been running it probably since 1930, and the mile is one of the toughest races to win. It's 130 miles an hour down the straightaways, and the veterans usually do the best because there's a lot of strategy involved to win the race. Drafting and when to know how to pass at the line is the people who win the race usually.
Now, for someone who hasn't seen flat track motorcycle racing, you guys have a standing start, and then you just go. Is it like whoever gets to the first corner, that's the whole shot, kind of like a motocross where that's the key? Yeah,
pretty much. That's usually key. You always want to get a good start. They usually do 3 rows of 6 riders in each heat race, so that's 18 guys in each heat race, and there's about 3 heat races, so they take top 4 out of each heat race, and everybody goes to a semi from there, and top 3 from each semi go to the main event, which makes it an 18-rider main event.
Now, Jake, when you're going around the corner there, and the thing that always amazes me with the flat track motorcycle races is you plant that foot down on the ground, and it is just incredible that you can do that at those kind of speeds. Doesn't that, the chance to break your foot really easy?
Yeah, I broke my foot last year, actually, at the beginning of the year, and we actually use a steel shoe on the left boot of our, and that helps our boots slide across the ground a little bit easier, and it's basically just putting our foot down as a guide, and if the bike starts sliding too much, we can usually plant our foot and catch ourselves, and this pretty much helps us get to the corner a lot faster.
Now, I've seen you, or not necessarily you, but I've seen a lot of flat track motorcycle races race on some of the paved racetracks too, and that's just insane. Have you ever done any of that yourself?
I've done a couple of those races down in Shakopee, and that series isn't quite as big, but it's definitely fun, and it's a lot really fast racing because we can carry so much corner speed in the corners, and it probably doesn't take quite as much talent, but it's definitely fun and good racing.
Now, don't you usually have studs on your tires? I mean, that can't work for the asphalt.
No, not for the asphalt or the dirt. We run studs when we ice race during the winter. We go out on the lakes every year, and there's usually a series, indoor series that we run, and that's on ice, and we run studded tires, and about 1,000 screws in each tire, and I mean, you don't want to get run over by one of those, obviously.
That'd just rip up your leg, I suppose. Just rip you up.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky so far, and haven't had too many problems with it, but would never want to get crashed in front of anybody. I would probably do some damage.
I guess last weekend you had a big race down in Illinois. That was an indoor race, though, right?
Yeah, last weekend was a race in Decoyne, Illinois. It was an indoor race. It was pretty small, short track, so it was a lot of handlebar-to-handlebar racing. To pass somebody, you pretty much had to run it in under somebody and stuff them and knock them out of your way, and definitely a lot of crashes, but overall some good racing.
What kind of speeds do you run on those short tracks, and then what kind of speeds do you run on the bigger ones, like the 1 mile tracks? You must really be flying on those kind of tracks.
On the bigger tracks, we run V-twin motorcycle engines, and I got a XR 750 Harley Davidson from Delano Sports Center that we run on the miles and half miles, and we're usually running about 130 miles an hour on the big tracks, and on the short tracks we run 450 basically motocross bikes that are lowered and have 19-inch wheels with dirt track tires on them. And the short tracks we're probably running about 55 to 60 miles an hour, and on most of them we're probably averaging 15 to 20-second lap times on the short tracks.
I know you travel the country. You've been out to California and Florida and Illinois and such, but do you race in Minnesota at all? Can we go and see you race at all this year?
Well, actually, last year was the first year they had a national in Minnesota since 1997, and this year they're going to do it again. It's on the schedule in Canterbury at the big horse track at Canterbury Downs and in Shakopee, and that's going to be in September, so I hope to see you guys there.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I heard, racing on a horse track, that must be difficult because usually isn't that a real loose dirt?
Yeah, it's real deep, so basically in the corners you never really let off the gas. You're pretty much wide open, steering it around the corner with the back end of the bike. Throttle control is pretty much goes out the door. You just hold the thing wide open around the whole track.
One of the questions we always like to ask any racer that we have is, do you have a favorite track, or do you have one that really you don't like, and tell us which ones those are.
I'd say my least favorite is Daytona. It was a new track this year, and they didn't do the best job of track prep. It was real hard, and it was almost like riding ice with no screws. So it's almost like Paul the Leader. But my favorite track is definitely Springfield Mile. There's always probably 20,000 people there watching, so it's really good racing. Track prep is awesome, and they say it's the fastest mile in the world.
Flat track motorcycle racer Jake Mataya is with us here on Speed Talk on 1360. Jake, what's the worst wreck you've ever seen?
I'd say I saw a pretty bad one last weekend, actually. Henry Wiles was on the front row, and he stalled his bike, and there's a couple guys that came from the back row that were wide open, and didn't see him that he stalled his bike, and they drilled right into the back of him, and luckily everybody walked away from it, but it could have been a lot worse.
There's really no reaction time either. I mean, you basically have to know where you're going to go, and hopefully there's a hole there, because everyone is pretty much, there's not a lot of extra room to get out of the way or something happens in front of you. You basically have to kind of anticipate what's going to happen very quickly, don't you?
Yeah, there's really no time to think about anything. It's all split-second reactions, and usually it works out, but sometimes it doesn't.
Are there many other Minnesota racers? I know that you are from the Blaine area. You work up in Delano, but are there many other Minnesota racers?
There's we run the District 23 the race series. It's an amateur series in Minnesota, and so far there's 2 national numbers out of Minnesota. It's myself and Josh Cook, and he's from Cedar, Minnesota. And then there's some up-and-comers, Kevin Anderson, he's from Cambridge, and also my brother, he's coming up. He's 18 years old, so a couple guys to be looking out for.
You kind of keep your eye on him, give him a lot of advice, get him going?
Yeah, I was giving him a lot of advice there, but he's definitely catching up, and I got to kind of watch my back, so I don't know if I'm going to be giving him any more advice now.
One thing about motorcycle races, and I guess because of the wear and tear, you don't see a lot of older drivers. Are there any older racers that you compete against?
Well, Chris Carr is one of the most famous racers on the series right now. He's about 42 or 43 years old, and he's been doing it the longest, and he's a 7-time national champion, and this is his last year doing the series, so it's definitely an honor racing with him and competing every weekend.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm 42 years old, and it's like, I don't think I would have done that 10 years or 20 years ago, because that is just absolutely crazy, and definitely you have to have a lot of agility and a lot of guts to do what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's in really good shape for his age, and last weekend at Decoyne, he ended up second and ran down the leader, and when he came off the track, he wasn't breathing hard at all, and so I hope I can be in that good shape around his age.
Yeah, really. Wow.
Well, good luck throughout the season, and we're going to keep track of you and post stuff on our website and stuff. So good luck all year long, Jake. We'll be watching you.
All right, thanks, you guys.
See you later.
Yep, bye.
Jake Mataya, flat track motorcycle racer locally here out of Delano.
Now, Jason, I don't ride a motorcycle, but you do. Could you see yourself doing what Jake does?
No, it's nuts. And the guys go so hard, and they're inches away from each other, side by side on these corners, flying around. It's just absolutely crazy. I love it. I love watching them on TV, and I'm going to try to get down to Canterbury on September 24th.
And we'll remind everybody when that event's coming up, because I think we're going to try and find a way to get down there for sure, because I'm excited to see that. I've never seen one in person, so I've never seen a race like that on a big track like that, so I'll be very excited to see that.
Well, and Jake is such a cool guy, too, because I was in Delano, and he just happened to be there, and so he gave me the tour of the shop, and he showed me all his bikes, and he has many bikes. And he was just showing me, actually, the big scars he has on his leg, because he got, wrecked earlier, and he was just down in Florida. He was kind of hopping around, hobbling around. I was like, man, this guy is it's just nuts.
And the thing he talked about was probably getting back on the bike right away, too, right?
He's like, I can't wait to get back on this weekend. I think I'm going to test it out.
Absolutely incredible. Almost a borderline insanity, but it's controlled chaos, I guess we can almost call it. But it's fabulous stuff. And
it's fun.
Great. And then we have Minnesota guys, too, so that's always great. We always like to highlight those Minnesota connections in racing.
You got that right. Including the Midwest Racing Connection. We're going to talk with Dan Plant about local racing here shortly. And I want to encourage everyone to check out our website at speedtalk1360.com. And also like us on Facebook. Please like us.
Please.
We're going to come back with more Speed Talk on 1360 after this on KRWC.